Hello and welcome. I'm Eric, and today I'm going to show you how to make web pages so you can create your own choose your own adventure story. Now, if you've never seen one, a choose your own adventure story is just a book where you get to make the decisions. For example, it might say something like, you're driving down the road, would you like to take a left or a right? And if you take a left, you turn to page 200, and if you take a right, turn to page 50. By doing this, you get to interact with the book and you create your own story based off of the decisions that you make. We're going to be doing HTML and making web pages to do something similar. This is going to be a very basic introduction. If you already know HTML and you just want to learn more about it, I'd recommend going to websites such as the w3schools.com website. That's w3schools.com. And w3schools.com will teach you all sorts of additional HTML beyond what we're going to talk about, and it will allow you to do things like add colorful backgrounds and do fancy things with your text and just have a lot of fun with it. Now, if you already know a lot about this and you want to take it even further, I would recommend the website w3docs.com. From there, w3docs.com can show you not only how to style your HTML like w3schools.com does, but it can also teach you how to do things with JavaScript to create an interactive website. Now, we're not going to do any of that right now. We're just going to stick with the super simple HTML. If you're on a PC, this is going to be pretty easy. There's a program called Notepad, and you can get to Notepad by clicking on your Start icon or Windows icon, depending on what version of Windows you're on, and typing in Notepad. If you're in a Macintosh, it's a bit trickier. You'll need to use the text edit program, but text edit by default will not show you what you're working on when it comes to HTML. So if you're on a Macintosh, you will need to go to text edit preferences. And once that's there, you're going to want to go to the new document tab, and you're going to want to set the format to plain text. And again, this is only if you're on a Macintosh. That's text edit, preferences, new document, plain text. The other thing that you're going to want to do is go to the Open and Save tab. And again, that's under Text Edit, Preferences, Open and Save tab. And you're going to want to check the box that says, when opening a file, display HTML files as HTML code instead of formatted text. Whew, that's a lot, but once you've done that, you're ready to go. Again, if you're on a Windows computer, you just need Notepad and you're set. Now that we've gotten the basics out of the way, the other thing that we're going to need is a web browser to view what we're working on. Now, be a little bit careful. If you're watching this video right now, you're in a web browser, and if you open your web page, that might cover it up. So you may want to wait until after you've watched this video, or be ready to pause this video before you open your work and view what you're doing. Otherwise, it will keep playing in the background. Now, for this demonstration, I'm going to use Google Chrome, but you can use any web browser you want. Mozilla Firefox, Macintosh's Safari, that's Apple Safari. You could use Microsoft Edge. Anything will display this once we're set. Whew, all right, so let's actually get started. What is HTML and how do we use it? Well, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, which a lot of people will tell you that because it comes up right when you type it into Google and say, what is HTML? And it will just say, well, it will take you to some places and it will say that it stands for Hypertext Markup Language. But the question is, what is hypertext? Well, these links that we see and we can click on to go to other places and see other things, that's really all that hypertext is. Now, we're all used to that in today's world, but when this was first invented, it was groundbreaking. Can you imagine going from just having books and paper and writing things out to being able to just touch a word and immediately show up to the definition? We all do that today, but before you had to grab more books and look things up. It could take forever. Now, that's well and good that we can click on things, but we don't want just a long line of text. We want things to look nice, like on this web page where we have little dots and bold text and small text and colors and all of that. So a really smart man named Tim Berners-Lee came up with the concept of a hypertext markup language. The idea is that instead of just having a big pile of text that if you clicked on it, it would go to some places and other places and all of that, you could format it so that it would look nice. And that's what the markup part of it is. And the language is just the rules that it follows. I know that sounds kind of strange, but let's take a look at it and it will make a lot more sense. I'm just going to come over to my Notepad and I'm going to show you some of those things. So there are rules to every language. For example, we don't just make random Adam Sandler mouth noises in order to communicate that we want to buy an ice cream cone. We actually say things like, I would like to buy an ice cream cone. HTML's the same way, but it's a computer, so of course it's really weird and strange. We have things called opening and closing tags. They're just little brackets. Now, if you've had math classes in the past, you'll know these as the less than and greater than symbols. These allow you to create tags. Now, there are a couple more rules. You'll need an opening tag and a closing tag in most cases. For example, we want to have HTML, so we will type out HTML inside of the tag, and we want to close that, so we'll do a slash HTML as well. And now we have what's called an opening tag and a closing tag. The easiest way to think of these are as boxes, and you can put more boxes inside of them. So what does this look like? Well, we need to save it and open it. I'm going to go ahead and go to File, Save As, so that I have control over this. And the reason I need control over this is by default, Notepad thinks that you want to make a text document, but we don't want to make a text document. We want to make an HTML page. So under the Save As type, I'm going to click on Text Document and change it to All Files. That will let me type in what I want for the format. And what does that look like? Well, in this case, I'm just going to call this Page 1. Notice I didn't put a space. Spaces make things more complicated, so for this quick demonstration, I'm not going to use any spaces. After I've typed out my name, I'm going to put a period, and I'm going to type in HTML. This will tell the operating system that the web browser is supposed to be the one that opens it. I'm going to go ahead and save this just to my desktop, but you can do other things like create folders and save them in there. And I would recommend that, so we'll do that in just a minute too. I'm going to save, and now that I've saved this, I need to actually open it and look at it. If I come over to my desktop, we can see page 1. I'm going to open this by double-clicking on it, and we get page1.html, but it's empty. Well, that actually makes sense because if we look at the code we've written so far, we just have HTML tags. What happens if we put some sort of text? Hello world. And save. Now that we've saved, File, Save, we can come over to our page1.html and refresh. Hey, we've got hello world. Well, what if we want to say that's cool? And then we save that, File, Save, and refresh. Uh-oh, what just happened? Notice that in here on our actual code, I've put this on 2 lines, but the web browser's shown it as 1 line. That's because the markup language doesn't understand things like return. It needs to know that there's an actual return here through something called a break. And so we can put that in by adding in another kind of tag called break, or BR. BR, that's the opening tag. So you want a closing tag as well. So slash BR. And notice every time I put them inside of the less than and greater than symbols. Now, I don't have anything inside of here, but that's going to be okay because I just need to use it to break the page into 2 pieces of text. Look at that. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Because we don't have anything inside of the break tag, there's a shorthand we can use. Instead of having an opening tag and a closing tag, we can combine them into one by just having the BR and slash inside of a single tag. And that's just shorthand for what we did, and it makes it a little bit easier for us to work with without accidentally breaking those 2 tags into 2 pieces, which you wouldn't have happen. Now notice one other thing. When I use it this way, all of a sudden, I don't have that big ugly space between the 2 lines of text. So that's useful too. But there's a little bit more to it than that. Let's say that we had a lot of text that we might have in and we wanted like paragraphs. Well, there's a paragraph tag as well. So let me show you what that one looks like. So I'll just delete what we've done so far. And again, I'm still inside of the opening and closing HTML tags. I'm going to create a paragraph tag with P. And I need to close that as well. So I'll do the /P to close it. Now this is getting a little hard for me to see because there's just so much text. And in fact, let's do one more thing, which is to make this font a bit bigger so that all of you can see it a little more easily. There we go. But this is still a big clump of text. So what do? Well, we learned just a minute ago that the web browser doesn't care about breaking things up inside the code. That's not how it's going to display it. It's only going to display things according to how we've tagged it. So that means I can do things like put returns and breaks and even lots and lots of spaces so that I have a better idea of where everything goes and I can read it a little more clearly. This is now a paragraph. Pretty cool. If I save this and I refresh, I can see that I have this is now a paragraph. Pretty cool, but without anything else, it's hard to see what's going on. So I'm just going to highlight what I've created and I'm going to edit, copy, and then I'm going to edit, paste. And this is now another paragraph. And I can save that and refresh. And look, much like how we had breaks, we now have paragraphs. So now we have multiple paragraphs. But let me show you one other way that you can start organizing things inside of your code. There's something that's called a div tag, and that's short for division. The div tag is like a paragraph tag, except it's not just for text, it's for anything. Now, I should make a little note here. The paragraph tag can technically also hold pretty much anything that you want. Not just text, because like a normal paragraph, you can put little smiley faces and things in it. But just as a standard, people like to use div tags, so I'll show those to you as well. And this will also give me an opportunity to show you how to wrap things. So I'm going to add some more space before all of the paragraph tags and after all of the paragraph tags. And I'm going to create a div tag. So I'm going to open the tag, type in div, and then I'm going to add a closing tag after everything, but still inside of HTML. So that's just /div. Now, a common mistake that happens is to accidentally put this closing tag inside of some other tag. And that's not great because it will confuse the web browser. That's why it's a good idea to go ahead and use as much spacing as you feel is necessary, so you can kind of see everything that's going on. So I'm just going to add in a little more white space. And you'll notice that everything looks way more confusing. And that's just because I'm using Notepad and it has text wrap on. So if I stretch this window out and make it long instead of narrow, it will stop wrapping it. I can also go under Format and turn off word wrap. And now it will just slide off the page and I don't have to worry about stuff showing up everywhere. But that's hard to see, so I'm just going to switch over to this format so we can see everything a little bit better. And I'll just extend this window as well so we can see what's going on. There we go. Now, to make sure that this does what I claim it does, I'm going to go ahead and add a little more spacing so I can see it a little more cleanly. I'm going to go to File, Save, and then I'm going to refresh. And notice that nothing changed, but now I have a division tag. And this is just a standard way of keeping things nice and clean. And so let me show you why that's a good idea as we move on to the next step. We're going to actually connect this page to another page. So first we need another page. So I'm just going to go to File and New in my Notepad, and notice that I get a new untitled Notepad text. And I'm going to put in an opening HTML tag and add some spaces and a closing HTML tag. And again, just have to make sure that I put in that slash there so that it works out. Keep in mind that keyboards have two kinds of slashes. And you just want the slash that is on the left at the bottom and on the right at the top. If you use that slash, then you'll be set. I'm going to go ahead and put in my division tag. Helps if you type it in correctly. If you mistype it, then you'll have some problems, but that's no big deal. You can edit that. And then I'm going to put in my closing div tag. And do you notice that I made a mistake? I didn't put the slash, so it's not going to work. Let me put the slash in. Now, a lot of tags. One more. I'm going to put in a paragraph tag. And I like to close my tags before I put in anything inside of it. That way I don't forget. Now I'm just going to put, this is page 2. And I'm going to save that. And I just did Control S since I'm on a PC, but you can always go to File, Save. And one more time, I have to make sure that it's set to all files. Otherwise, it won't let me save it as an HTML page. Now I'm going to type in page2.html. Now that I've done that, I have a second page hidden away. Let's go ahead and open it and take a look. Here it is. Let's open it up. Now we have page 2. This is page 2. We also have page 1 with all of the extra text that we had before. Now let me go back over here. We need another kind of tag so that we can connect these two pages. And once we've done this, we're ready to actually make our choose our own adventure story. So what we need is what's called an anchor tag. And then we're going to need a very specific kind of anchor tag called a hyperlink reference. So let's go ahead and make a new division tag here. And that's open it with a div. And don't forget to close that div. And now inside of this new div, we're going to need to create an anchor tag. This one's really simple. It's just A. That's it. And we need to close that as well. Now that we have this anchor tag though, we need to state that this is a hyperlink reference. So this is where it gets a little bit crazy. Inside the opening tag, and if I put this on 2 lines, you can see that a little more clearly. I'm going to put a space so that I'm not touching my A. I'm going to do HREF. That's hyperlink reference. And I'm going to tell it that it equals, and it's going to be a quote, just like if you had inside of a book a character talking. So I'm going to put 2 quote marks. And then inside of that, all of that, I need to tell it that it's going to go to a page. Now, what page are we going to go to? Well, we're on page 2. Let's go ahead and go to page 1. So there are a couple of pieces of information you're going to need, but we'll talk about that in a second. First, I'm going to show that this works by just typing in the exact same capitalization, page1.html. And then I'm going to save this. But there's a slight problem. Once we look at this, we won't see any difference. And that's because much like we don't see the division tags or the paragraph tag until there's content inside of it, we don't see the anchor tag. So we need to say something inside the anchor tag. So inside the anchor tag, I'm just going to say, click me to go to page 1. And I'm going to save. And I'm going to refresh. And now we have something that says click me to go to page 1. And if I click it, it went to page 1. That's great. The reason that it did that was that it told the web browser that it has a hyperlink reference to something called page1.html. Now this is what's referred to as a relative link. And so if we were to move page 1 off of our desktop, this would stop working because it wouldn't know where page 1 is anymore. If you wanted an absolute link, you would have to tell it exactly where everything is. Let me just give you an example of that by copying everything that we just did, pasting it down, and let's just go to google.com. But we want a total, complete absolute reference. So I'm going to go to https://www.google.com. And you might have seen this a few times if you've typed out everything, or not. If you tend to go to Google on your phone, it will cut it down to just Google or google.com. Now we'll go ahead and change this to go to google.com. And notice that whatever I type in doesn't necessarily have to match what the H reference link is, which is great. The hyperlink reference. I love that. It makes it so much easier. So I've saved. I'm going to go back a page, refresh, and we now have the option to go to page 1 or go to google.com. Sure enough, it went to google.com. Great. Now that's the difference between an absolute reference, where it has all the information it needs to go somewhere, and a relative reference, where it just has to go to something that's wherever the page you're on is located. So in other words, because I have page 1 and page 2 both on my desktop, it can find it. If I split them into 2 separate folders, it would get confused. As long as they're together, they can be in any folder they want and they'll be happy. Now we have enough information to actually create a choose your own adventure. So let's do that, and then we'll let you loose to create as many fun web pages as you want. Now, before we get started on a choose your own adventure, we don't want a whole bunch of little HTML pages scattered all across our computer. So I'm just going to right click on the desktop, and I'm going to go to new folder, and I'm going to call this choose your own adventure. And now we've got a choose your own adventure folder. I'm going to double click that. And as we can see, there's nothing in it yet. So let's go ahead and make some things so that we can play our game. I'm going to go to File, New. And now I'm going to create an HTML page for the first page of my Choose My Own Adventure. So I'm going to do HTML, just as I've done before. And I'm going to do a closing tag for the HTML so the web browser knows what's going on. And since I want to be good about this, I'm going to create a division tag. And I'm going to close my division tag. And then inside of here, I can put all the text I want. Now I've gone ahead and typed up some text in advance so that you don't have to watch me sit here and try to think up a little storyline. So I'm just going to come over and paste in what I've typed up already. Your alarm is going off. Do you hit snooze for 5 more minutes, turn off the alarm, or get up? Well, these seem like actions that should go to more pages, so let's go ahead and put each of those inside of their own tag and then create some pages for that. So I'm going to need an anchor tag, and I'm going to need another anchor tag, and always close your anchor tags. And I'm going to need one last anchor tag. Now you'll notice that I've made a mistake, and that is that I don't have any breaks. Also, it's probably a good idea to put these inside of a paragraph just to demonstrate that this is text so that we don't get confused later. So I'm going to go ahead and make a paragraph and another paragraph closing tag so that we can see everything. And as always, I just like to space these out. You don't have to if you don't want to. Now that I've got all this, let me save this and show you one last time. This time, when I file save, I'm going to go to my Choose My Own Adventure. I'm going to call this You Just Woke Up. Notice no spaces because I want to make this easy on me. Now, be careful. Make sure you set it from text document to all files so that when you put .html, it will save correctly. Now I've saved it, and I have You Just Woke Up. When I double click this, sure enough, because I only have the one paragraph and no breaks, everything's on one line. So I'm going to come back in, and I'm going to just tab on over so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to do the shorthand for break. Actually, let's do the longhand. And that will give us that extra space we like. Now, some web browsers won't give you that extra space, and that's fine. A separate paragraph tag for each of these will work just fine. But for Google Chrome, it will go in. And I've just typed in the BR to open and the /BR to close. All right, now let's take a look. Yay. Now without an href, these don't go anywhere. So let's go ahead and make one more page the exact same way. So I'm just going to copy, and I'm going to make a new document. I'm going to paste, and then I'm going to change it. Let's say that we wanted to hit snooze. So I'm going to type out some new information, and I'm just going to paste that over so that you don't have to watch me type. So now you hit snooze and you quickly fell back asleep. Now you have the options to hit snooze for 5 more minutes, turn off the alarm, or finally get up. Now, once again, we're going to need our opening and closing break tags. So let me type those in, and I'll just paste those in so you don't have to watch. And now I'll put in the anchor tags so that you don't have to watch. I'll just paste those over. Remember to put them at the beginning and the end of each piece. That will be a link. And now we need to save this new page. And this is the snooze page. So I'll save. And it will ask me where I want to save it. I'm going to save it back in my Choose My Own Adventure folder. And I'm going to set it to all files. And I'm going to call it You Hit Snooze. And again, no spaces, no special characters like exclamation marks or periods or commas, just You Hit Snooze. And I'm going to put .html, and I'm going to save it. So now we have 2 pages, and that means it's time to link them together. So I need to open up our previous page, and I'm going to go to File and Open. And we're in the correct location, but we can't see them because it's trying to open text documents only. And we want all files. And I'm going to go to You Just Woke Up. Hey, here we are. And now we've got a snooze page. So I'm going to go over to the inside of my anchor tag, add a space, add href, and that's href equals quotes. And then inside the quotes, I'm going to call it You Hit Snooze, exactly like I had it before, .html. And now I'm going to save. And then I'm going to refresh my You Just Woke Up page. And now I can go to You Hit Snooze for 5 more minutes. You hit snooze. You quickly fall back asleep and start to dream of strange lands. But the alarm goes off. Hit snooze for 5 more minutes. Turn off the alarm. Get up. Well, we know what happens if you hit snooze for 5 more minutes. It goes back to this page. So let's just go ahead and link back to that page. So let's come over to our Notepad, and we'll open, and we'll tell it that we're doing all files, and we'll go to You Hit Snooze, and we'll go over to the link that we're creating, hit snooze for 5 more minutes, add an href inside of the anchor tag, and we'll call it You Hit Snooze.html. Now notice I forgot my closing double quotes, so I'm going to add that right there. And I'm going to save, and then I'll refresh my page. And now I can keep hitting snooze forever. It just keeps going back to the same page, which is something that is allowed inside of HTML. Following this process, we can create more and more pages and eventually link everything together. For example, we could create one more new page and paste in everything that we've done before with our HTML, our closing HTML tag, div tag, closing div tag, paragraph, closing paragraph tag. Oops, slight mistake. There we go. And then type in everything that we want with breaks in between. We can save this out as turn off alarm. .html, making sure that we save it as an all file. And now we can go in and link all of our other pages so that they connect to it. Making sure that we open all files. I can go to You Just Woke Up. And now we have href turn off alarm.html. And I'm just going to copy that so that I don't have to do it on the other page as well. And I'm going to go File, Open. And again, I need to look for all files. And I'll go to Hit Snooze. And I'll put this in on Turn Off Alarm. All right, so now if we refresh, we have an option to turn off our alarm. And that's it. That's all there is to it. From here, you just keep working out new scenarios, and you keep typing up new ideas, and you keep adding in new links, and eventually you'll have created an entire choose your own adventure story. I hope you had fun following along. And if you want to do further research, again, I strongly recommend the w3schools.com and also w3docs.com. Those two web pages are a wonderful resource in order to let you learn more about HTML and building web pages. Have a great day. Goodbye.